I'm 102 years old, and most nights I wake up sometime after midnight, not because of noise, not because of pain in my bones. I wake up because something inside my chest feels heavy, and sometimes I cry. My name is Margaret Whitaker. When people imagine a woman my age crying at night, they usually think it must be fear of dying, fear of being alone. But that isn't the truth. Old people don't cry because of tomorrow. We cry because of yesterday. At this age, the nights are very quiet, too quiet sometimes. The house creaks a little when the wind moves. The refrigerator hums in the kitchen. Somewhere down the hallway, a clock ticks slowly. And when everything becomes that quiet, your memories begin to speak. During the day, it's easier. The sunlight comes through the windows. Sometimes the television is on. Sometimes a neighbor stops by or one of my grandchildren calls. But at night there is nothing to hide from. The past walks into the room and sits beside you, and it stays there. When I was young, I never imagined I would live this long. At 25, life felt endless. Every year ahead of me looked wide and full. I married my husband Thomas when I was 26. He was a quiet man, not the kind who filled a room with words, but the kind who made you feel safe just by being there. We started our life in a small rented house with peeling paint and a narrow kitchen. I remember standing at the sink washing dishes while Thomas fixed a loose cabinet door. We didn't have much, but it felt like enough. Our first child, David, was born 2 years later. Then our daughter, Clara, came 3 years after that. Life became busy very quickly. Mornings started before the sun. Breakfast for the children. Laundry piling up in the corner. School lunches wrapped in paper. Thomas worked long hours driving delivery trucks. I stayed home and tried to keep everything together. Back then, I believed something very strongly. I believed that if I kept everything running, if the house was clean, if the meals were warm, if the children were safe, then I was doing my job well. And maybe I was. But somewhere in the middle of all that responsibility, something quiet began to happen. Time started slipping away. David would ask me to watch him ride his bicycle in the driveway. "Just for a minute, Mom." And I'd answer from the kitchen, "In a moment, sweetheart. I'm busy right now." Clara once stood in the doorway holding a drawing she made at school. "Look what I made." I remember glancing at it quickly while stirring a pot on the stove. "That's nice, honey." Then I turned back to cooking. At the time, none of those moments felt important. They felt small, and small things are easy to delay. I kept thinking there would be time later when the laundry was done, later when dinner wasn't burning, later when the house was quiet, later. That word feels so heavy now. Years move forward the way they always do. The children grew taller. Their voices changed. Their lives became larger than the walls of our house. There were school dances, friends, first jobs. I was always there in the background, but not always present in the way I wish I had been. I spent so much energy trying to keep life organized that I didn't always sit down and simply live inside it. Thomas noticed it sometimes. One night after the children had gone to bed, he sat across from me at the kitchen table. The house was quiet. He said gently, "Margaret, one day this house will be empty." I laughed and told him he was being dramatic. How could it ever be empty? But of course, he was right. Children don't stay children. They leave. And when they do, the silence that replaces them is something you never fully prepare for. The turning point came much later. Thomas became ill when we were in our 70s. At first, it seemed like nothing serious. Just fatigue, a cough that wouldn't go away. Then doctor visits began, tests, waiting rooms, quiet conversations with doctors. I remember sitting beside him in a hospital room while he slept. His face looked smaller somehow, older. And in that moment, I realized how many years had passed since we simply sat together without rushing somewhere else. He passed away not long after. After the funeral, I came back to the house alone. The same house that once felt too small now felt enormous. The kitchen where I spent decades cooking meals suddenly felt unfamiliar. The living room chair where Thomas used to sit by the window remained empty. At first, the children called often. David would check in every few days. Clara visited when she could. But they had their own families now, their own homes full of noise and responsibility. Slowly, life carried them forward the way it carries everyone. Now the house stays quiet most of the time, and when night comes, that quiet becomes something deeper. That's when the memories return. The drawing Clara held in the doorway, David asking me to watch his bicycle, Thomas sitting at the kitchen table telling me one day the house would be empty. Nothing terrible happened all at once. Life didn't collapse. It simply moved forward while I was busy trying to keep everything under control. And now, at 102 years old, I finally understand something. Old people cry at night because we can see our lives clearly for the first time. Not the busy version we lived through, but the quiet truth beneath it. The moments we rushed past, the conversations we shortened, the simple things we thought we could come back to later. Time doesn't return those things. If you're listening to me, I'm not trying to tell you what you should do. I'm just telling you what it feels like to sit where I sit now. To realize how quickly ordinary days become an entire life. If this story meant something to you, you can share your thoughts. I read them sometimes. It makes the nights feel a little less quiet. As for me, I know my time is not very long now. The nights are still long, but the days feel shorter every year. And sometimes, when the house is very still, I close my eyes and imagine Thomas sitting beside me again, just for a moment. Then the clock keeps ticking.